GameCube games on the Switch is something that a lot of people ask for and hope that will eventually happen, if not now, maybe next generation, but that is something that people want to see added even to that online service, as it's kind of a subscription model now, and we've already gone up one generation to the Super Nintendo. But what about GameCube-themed Joy-Con controllers? I mean, I figure when we get to that point, we'll need some kind of GameCube-themed controller, or, I mean, they technically have them, but they're wired. However, one company apparently decided to attempt that with the Joy-Cons. Yeah, this is the C800 from SADS or Sades or Sades. I'm not really sure how to pronounce their name here, but I have to at least give them some credit because they're like this close. Like, they're so close for this actually being a good set of replacement Joy-Con controllers. I'll talk a little bit about why they're off by that much. I do think it's fixable though, Saddies. I think it's fixable, and I think this is something you should continue to pursue because these could actually be something that you would use over the first-party Joy-Con controllers. And seriously, we'll unbox it here. I'll talk a bit about what I like about them, what I don't, and we're apparently going to take a look today at the C800 GameCube Joy-Con controllers. So first things first, I did say that there are some impressive features to this, and there are some features that just get left out completely when it comes to Joy-Con controllers done by third parties or pro controller replacements. Basically, NFC compatibility, that goes out the window immediately, right? Sometimes rumble just isn't there. Gyro, it can be an afterthought. However, all three of those are in here. That's right, this works with NFC, so if you have Amiibos, it will scan. It does have rumble, although it's not HD rumble, okay, it's standard basic rumble, and it does have gyro. All of those things are in here, and that kind of caught me off guard, to be honest, because I thought at least NFC would be out there. There's not a lot of controllers we look at here that has that. So let's go ahead and open this guy up real quick. Now we can see the box, of course, here. It goes through all the features. And this is funny. I complain about this all the time, don't I? I always say, this thing, it doesn't wake the Switch up. Well, look what they put right on the front of the box. Wake up. It does indeed wake up your Switch. I was so happy to see that. Connects through Bluetooth or wired because this does connect to the side railings and it will actually charge through them as well, which was another really neat thing that I noticed. Dual vibration, so we have a rumble motor on each side. Basically at the bottom, after I took a look at them, appears to be the part that does rumble. And then we have 6-axis gyroscope, which is great. It also comes with kind of this, the wrist strap that connects to the bottom there. And overall, it's a fairly minimalistic box, but let's go ahead and open this guy up. It does have both of them here, and then in the middle, it has a charge cable that I'll explain to you in a little bit, because believe it or not, this is one of the drawbacks, is this charge cable, and I'll kind of talk a bit about why that is. So let's get both of these guys opened up here. We have our right. It does come with one wrist strap there, and then we have our left here. Also comes with a wrist strap, so you do get 2 wrist straps, you get a cable, and then you get both Joy-Con sides, and this retails right now on Amazon, so it's prime shipped and everything, at $59.99, so it is $20 cheaper than the OEM Joy-Con controllers. And really what's interesting about this is you can use one side with this, and then you can use the other side, say, with a stock Joy-Con, and it'll work fine. And you're already probably looking right at it. Yes, there is a D-pad here, and that it actually works all right. We'll talk a bit about that, but you could technically have this on one side, you could have the stock Joy-Con controller on the other, maybe you prefer just the buttons on here, and it would work. I've used it a bit like that, and you know what? It's actually not bad. Now looking at the size of it, it is pretty much the same size, same width, although they have done a few things to try to make this slightly more ergonomic in the hand, so a better feeling. They've basically curved around here, and what the idea of this is to try to mimic a grip, just a bit more, and it's tough. You basically have to have a lot coming out here to really give your palm on the bottom here something to hold on to. They have attempted to do that, and it is more form-fitting than this, but it's still not quite all the way. So you're still gonna get some claw grip and everything with it just because you don't really have anywhere else to hold on to, and that is still kind of a problem because, again, the Switch in handheld mode for people who have larger hands can become kind of uncomfortable without a grip. But if you want something that is still kind of minimalistic and gives you a better grip, these are not bad. I was a little surprised. They do stick out the bottom a bit, but when you attach them, they're actually fairly flush with the system. Let's actually go ahead and attach them. They do have the standard railings on the bottom, so it goes in here and you get a nice click. Look. So you still get a good click out of it and everything. It doesn't feel cheap when it slides on. And you can see just how flush, like it sits on there very nicely. They definitely did some work looking at this just to make sure it didn't feel cheap or have rigid edges or not line up just right. These line up really, really well. Now on the back, there is a bit of a bump here. Again, they're trying to make it a bit more ergonomic so you have more to hold on to. And when it's in this position, it's not bad, mostly because of that extra little bit to hold on to. In fact, I think they have something here with this form factor. I still don't really like it when it's off by itself, but I'm not really a big fan of the Joy-Con when it's off by itself. Like, I don't really ever split them. It's just not that comfortable for me. I would prefer to either use it in like the grip that they sell it to you with, or I would use the Pro controller when I'm playing off. But in handheld mode like this is, I think, better than the stock Joy-Con controllers. Now, I said they have some stuff to work on with these, and they do. The biggest thing that I don't really like that much is the actual face buttons. The face buttons, I think, need some help. They really do. If you actually take a look at them here, we have A, B, X, and Y, and they are, of course, set up similar to the GameCube. This is themed just after a GameCube controller. As you see the little C stick here that's supposed to mimic that. We have the stick for the GameCube with that kind of several circle pattern on the top, and the D-pad does not remind me of the GameCube D-pad necessarily because it's very large, but maybe they took that design and blew it up, I'm not sure. But this is a problem over here. They're not off enough. So A, for example, is almost flush, and that does not feel great. Like if you're playing and you're kind of searching for it, it is larger, but it doesn't stick off of there, and that really is weird. It's not great, I'll say that. They are all tactile, so they are very similar to A, B, X, and Y on a standard Joy-Con controller, so you get kind of like, if you move around, you'll get a click. Kind of like that, if you can hear it. And unfortunately, the travel on them is just not great. It's worse with the A button because you're pushing into the Joy-Con almost, and overall, I just don't like the way these buttons feel. If they go with something a bit more similar to what an actual GameCube controller feels like, which of course is that it's more spongy like the Pro controller is, for example, I think that would be a lot better. Now, looking at the D-pad is also tactile. So it will work okay for platformers, but it's gonna be harder with fighting games where you have to roll and do all kinds of stuff with it. It won't work as well. It's kind of like the 3DS. Think of the 3DS D-pad. However, it is good. You can still, my problem is you can push in the middle and you can start hitting all kinds of stuff. You can even hear it. So that is kind of an issue there. The D-pad isn't bad, it's just not great. I don't really prefer the tactileness of it. This is almost like if you took your left Joy-Con controller and you reshelled it, this is how it would feel. The sticks aren't bad. The left stick and the C stick are very, very similar to the Joy-Con controller sticks. They are. In fact, inside I noticed that they look just like them. Like they're very, very similar. I think they're using a design that mimics the Joy-Con joysticks in here. I don't know if they mimic the drifting issues that people are experiencing. I really can't tell you because this would take time to most likely get to that drifting issue. I can tell you they did not come out of the box drifting, so that's at least a plus. But they do feel just like it. They have limited travel similar to the Joy-Con controllers, but if you're used to that and you're fine with it, then it's probably not a big deal. Well, let's go ahead and test an Amiibo while we're here. I have the Villager Amiibo. I have it here for holding Amiibo to the NFC point, which should be, I think it's the right, yeah, it's the right one, okay. So there we go. It did go ahead and sync right up. No problems at all there. So if you're looking for a set of third-party, I guess, Joy-Con controllers, this would be the one to get for NFC technology. I'm hopeful that the more that we see this, like with NFC popping up, just in general, it should hopefully become a standard feature across the board. Although I guess these would count kind of as more expensive accessories for third parties when it comes to these, because these are $60, but I would, again, rather pay a bit more for higher quality and as many features as they can pack in. So there was one other interesting thing about these Joy-Con controllers that I noticed when I plugged them into the Switch. It asked me to update it. And when that happened, it kind of caught me off guard a little bit. And I think what's happening here is that the system sees these as like straight up retail Joy-Con controllers, like this one, for example, or like this one. I think it sees these as like official Nintendo ones almost, and it attempts to update them, and it successfully did so. So I don't know if these are running on similar firmware or anything, but it is interesting to note that it does update them. I'm not a huge fan of ZR or ZL on here. They are similar to the standard Joy-Con controllers where they're tactile basically, so they are digital, of course. They just don't feel very good. I don't know, it's almost like they get kind of, there's a lot of resistance there. It's very, very awkward when you press down. R and L have some as well, and they're very loud. You can really hear them, but ZR and ZL just do not feel good at all. So I don't know what the deal is there. They might want to look into that a bit more. Okay, so we're in Doom right now, and I wanted to kind of play around with the gyro a little bit. I'm using the right Joy-Con, of course, for that gyro functionality, and yeah, it works fine. I'm glad to see that, like I said, gyro is included in this system. We have, of course, NFC, we have rumble. There's quite a bit going on here, and I like that they did manage to pack all of the features in. It's also worth noting that these do have SL and SR on them, so they will function as single Joy-Con controllers as well, so you can use them standard like this. Of course, it does have a D-pad though. It might be kind of difficult for whoever you hand this to. I mean, I guess they can try to make it, yeah, I mean, I guess you could technically make it work because it is tactile, but yeah, it's gonna be pretty awkward to say the least, but they will function as single Joy-Cons. So we've talked about all the different features. We've talked about some of the drawbacks when it comes to the buttons and some of the ZR and ZL stuff, but I have not talked about one of my biggest annoyances of these controllers, and that's kind of the way they charge. Now, of course, you can just set them on the Switch and put it on your dock, and they'll charge. I managed to charge these both to full power, no problem, but they have another way you can charge them. That comes back to this cable. These things have charge ports on the sides, like they're just sitting there open, and you can plug this in, and then I guess you can plug this into like a wall if you want, and it'll charge. I don't know why that's there. Take that out. Like we don't need that, and in fact, it's very, very odd because this is exactly where you're basically gonna be gripping it. So if you're holding this, my hand is directly over that charge port, and let's say you've been playing for, you know, a couple hours and maybe your palms get sweaty, you're gonna pretty much put moisture directly into that charge port, and that can cause some issues overall with that port and possibly the Joy-Con. So there's a couple of ways they can go with this. Maybe they really wanna keep that. Just say, hey, you can charge it without having to put it on the railings, or any other way we charge our normal Joy-Con controllers, which no one really ever complains about that anyway. Put a flap over it. So you'd have some kind of plastic flap that would cover it, much like cases for phones do or something. That's another way you could go about it, okay? Just a way to pretty much cover that up because it is on both of them. So you'll be holding them like this and both of those exposed ports are just buried into your hands. All right, so let's take a quick look inside both of these. They both use Phillips head for the back, so they come out pretty quickly, and we can see what we have in here. Also, while I'm taking this right one apart, I did forget to mention there is no IR port at all on this, so that is a feature that has been removed. So if you do play any games that use that, whether it's, I guess, like 1-2 Switch, for example, or Resident Evil Revelations 2 that uses that to reload, you cannot use it. So we're inside the right one here, and it looks very similar to what a Joy-Con would be with its railing. What's really funny about this one is the antenna. So this is kind of funny. It has a large antenna, which is cool. You know, I mean, that's good to have a larger antenna, but the thing that I find kind of comical about it is it's just laying out in the open. It's just like sitting right here, like by itself. And I remember I did that with mine, but I was just messing around with it. This is them just literally leaving just a cable just kind of wandering down here. We do have our smaller motor down here for the rumble feature. It reminds me of what's generally in something like a cell phone for that rumble motor. It's very violent. It does shake and make a lot of noise, so keep that in mind. These are not the best when it comes to rumble at all. So this is ZR. Up here, there is a spring that is like sideways. Maybe that's why it's not working that great. It's just not a very good setup in general back here, it looks like. So that could have something to do with it not feeling very good. 4 screws out, the motherboard just pretty much pops right out of there. This is our, let me get that guy out. This is what's that, ZR. ZR comes out with the spring as well, kind of just falls out of there. On this side, this is kind of funny because this is the one that has NFC, and I was curious what they were doing to make that work kind of as a third party. And I guess this is it right here. I guess that's how that functions. It has this large amount of copper running around here, and when you set it there, I guess it just kind of communicates with it. So kind of an interesting idea, I guess, to make that work, but I'm just gonna kind of bend that over here. It is soldered straight to it, so there you go. All of the buttons are tactile, remind me very much of what is in the 3DS, as kind of these little domes that push down, click, and then calls a short on the board to tell it that you are pressing it. The stick here, again, it's kind of a take on the Joy-Con. It's very interesting. It's an odd looking stick. It is soldered straight in, so this isn't a plug-in. It's not coming out. So I guess it's different in some way, but it's very interesting to think that there is another take on the Joy-Con here. We do have our battery here. It is 1.3 watt hours at 3.7 volts. I think that would be about 350 milliamp hours, I believe. So it is a bit smaller than what's in the standard Joy-Con controllers. I can't really speak on battery life. I will say after a couple of hours, it didn't go down that bad, but it's probably going to be a bit less than what you're used to with your OEM Joy-Con controllers. They didn't really quote battery life either that I could see on their page, but this is at least a fair, I would say a fair battery, but if I had to put a number out there, I'd say this is probably like a 6 to 7 hour battery. Next, we're going into the left controller here. Same battery, yep, same battery. Same rumble motor, same idea with the antenna where it's just this wire sticking out the bottom. Same railings as we would also assume. I'm kind of curious, just take a quick look at the D-pad to be honest, as everything else seems probably the same as the other side from what I'm seeing. I'm sure the stick is also the same. So let's go ahead. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, four screws, I think, right here. And with the left board out, it is the same interesting kind of Joy-Con take here where there's solder directly to it. So it's an interesting thing to see again. The D-pad you can see here is all like clicks. So it's the same buttons as this one here, right? So they're running the same kind of dome-shaped short throw presses. Basically, it's just like you're pressing buttons. That's pretty much it. So it's similar to what you'd see in like the Joy-Con, for example, with its arrows. But this one's pretty much straightforward. Again, unfortunately for the D-pad, I'm able to press all of the sides. And I don't know if that's because the spike is just not that, it's just not that deep compared to everything else. You can see the spike and kind of the sides here are very, very close to each other in terms of length. So yeah, it's pretty easy just to press it down in the middle and hit all sides. So not a great D-pad overall. I'm not a big fan of the tactile feeling because it just feels like you're just pressing buttons and rolls are just not very good. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is gonna do it for the SADS. We'll go with SADS. SADS C800 GameCube Joy-Con controllers. They do kind of advertise them as Joy-Con replacements, and you can make the case because of the amount of features that it has. I mean, it pretty much checks all the boxes with NFC, rumble, gyro, even waking the Switch up. But unfortunately, they need to go back to the drawing board for the face buttons on that right side. I'm even gonna say the D-pad. The sticks for the joysticks feel pretty much just like the Switch's OEM ones. Drifting, I don't know, we could see down the road, but there does need to be some work, and I hope they do it because really there's not a lot of feature complete Joy-Con controllers at all on the market. So if they can nail kind of the GameCube side with those buttons, maybe go to more of a spongy button like we've used with the GameCube controller, I think they have something here. In fact, if the D-pad was fixed and those buttons were fixed, I would probably tell you to go buy these. But right now, I would wait. Maybe we'll get another revision of these from SADS, C900, C1000, we'll see. But thanks guys for watching. Hopefully this helped you out. Maybe this showed you a kind of a cool idea that a company has with Joy-Cons. Also, if you're new here, make sure you subscribe as we do tech teardowns all the time with different controllers and systems, and like the video on the way out if you enjoyed it. Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.